Workshop to order today. We appreciate Dr. Pace and Dr. Reinhardt, Mr. Allen, Dr. Respis. Did I get that? Is that right? The doctors and the mister?
Yes, sir.
You better get to work, Mike.
He is working.
He is
I
working
figured
very
he was.
hard.
He's
He's getting closer.
Well, don't be
every
insulted
quarter.
when you get it. We keep calling him Mister. It'll take us years to convert.
Mr.
that.
Mr. Wheeler will not be joining us today. We do have Mr. Kruppenbacher, and we
Wait.
received a response from.
Tim will be late. He'll be fine.
Okay, so maybe Mr. Weisshire, Kelvin, who knows? So you
Good
got the two.
afternoon.
You have the two
You got to
that
get us
matter.
focused.
So
We're struggling.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Chairman Booth and Vice Chairman Thacker. We are excited this afternoon to bring you an update on academic success. This really came from Mr. Thacker's interest in learning more about the programs at OTEC and some of the work that we were doing there. But we felt like it was also time to give you a full update on our acceleration opportunities because, as you know, when we report out academic success data in the summer, we're still getting things like AP results and industry certification and those types of things. So we'll start with academic success and acceleration, strategy 1C.
Absolutely.
Dr. Reinhardt and Dr. Respis and Mr. Allen have some good information to share with you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. We're glad to have you guys here
Afternoon.
with us. And
All of us.
all of you.
All of us.
Yes. We can just focus. We'll go back and forth. It's all good. So Dr. Respis is going to get us started talking about our gifted opportunities.
Good afternoon. On the first slide, you will see two charts, and they represent the same data on the first page, or on the back of that page, back of the cover page. There you go. Each represents the same data, just presented in different ways. We broke out the overall trends over the last 3 years, beginning from 2015-16 all the way through last year of 17-18 by elementary, middle, high, and charter. But I want you to focus on the overall trends and the numbers that we've had. In 16 we had 1,911 students, and then in 17-18 we had an increase of 324 students up to 2,235, and that is a 17% increase. So we're very pleased about that. And this is why you may see some alterations throughout or some little dips or dives or whatever, but that's why we look at things in a 3-year trend so that we are capturing that over the course. So we have had an overall increase and we're pleased about that.
And keep in mind, this goes back to the board's commitment to implement the universal screening in second grade, which has greatly increased our gifted identification. As you can see below, the charter identification has remained flat. So.
How does their percentage, 214, I don't know what their total enrollment is compared to our 2,200 versus our total enrollment, do you know?
I don't know their total.
Do they serve about
What's
20,000 students?
they're not 100%.
I don't know, but I can get that for you.
Could you say the question again?
I was curious what percentage of their total enrollment, or the 214 out of what number versus our 2235 out of what number?
Text David, he could get it from.
I'm just-
It's usually about 2% or less. It's like your gifted population's not very high
Okay.
overall. Remember, gifted is a number. You
Our-
have to have a certain
Sure.
number to be high.
So our trend within our district is 4%, so we are
Right.
good. They might be less than that based on their population. We'll see. I can check with our gifted resource teacher and he will.
Isn't it about 19,000?
I'm thinking theirs is actually probably a higher percentage than
And that
ours,
would
but as
be-
you can see, it's remained flat. And ours is now at 4%. We started at about 2% gifted identification when we began.
If they're at 20,000, it's about 1%.
Yeah,
1%.
that's about, what's 1%? I was gonna say, ours is much higher.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. All right, we are really pleased with this next slide. We broke up the gifted trends by subgroup, so you can see how each subgroup has increased, and we did this over the last 4 years. And I really want you to note the orange line at the top, and that denotes our Hispanic subgroup, and that has increased by 336 students over the last 4 years, and that's a 41% increase. And of course, all of the numbers here really more closely mirror the demographics of Osceola County now, so we're very pleased about that. Dr. Pace mentioned that we're doing the second graders again. In the past, we were able to just do the title schools of second graders, but now we are doing all of the schools, including K-8, so everyone, all of our 28 elementaries. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Allen.
Okay. All right, so another way that we are looking to accelerate our students is through what we call our Talent Identification Program, or our TIP program. Part of the program is identifying our most academically competitive 7th grade students, and then we invite them to take the actual college entrance SAT examination. And we do that just simply so they have the experience of the conditions of the test. And we tell the kids this is a no harm, no foul situation. This is for you to experience. And we even we have 2 middle school sites that we have to make the environment more conducive for middle school kids and safety as well.
When does that happen? Is that in the spring?
Yep. Yeah, it's in March this year. And so as you can see, we've had dramatic increase over the last 3 years. And this year we're looking to increase that by an additional 10% as our goal. And during the test, we actually take the opportunity as well to meet with the parents and to give them information about high school acceleration options like dual enrollment, AP, and now Neo City Academy as well.
The 185 that did this last year, how many of those did we invite? I mean, in other words, we invite 300 or 190?
We invited 700 last
700?
year. Yeah, just over 700.
Do we know why? I guess I feel like that number's not where it should be on 700. Do we know why?
So,
is it hard for them to get there? Or
a lot of times there are conflicts with sporting programs and other
Is it usually on a
obligations.
Saturday?
It is on a Saturday,
Saturday
yes. Right.
In March?
Yeah.
Saturday in March?
Baseball.
And when do those letters go out?
So we actually start now. The guidance counselors at our schools are meeting with the kids this week. So we'll have parent night in November, and then we touch base with them again in January. And we actually have a night where they can come into the sites and sign up, because as you guys know, as parents, it's not always the easiest process to navigate through signing up for the SAT examination, especially like for me, that was a first timer.
So, how does your turnout come on the parent night thing?
This last year was the first time that we had done the actual sign-up parent night. So we had
No charge, right? We give them this, right?
no. They do have to pay
Oh, they have
for
to
the
pay.
examination. However, if there is a financial problem, then we do cover it for the.
Okay, so they know that, they don't.
Yes, sir.
What is the cost?
It
$54.
$54?
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I just wish that number was 600 out of 700.
But we're getting there.
We're working on it. So another way that we are providing opportunities for acceleration is through our coursework offered in our middle schools. So if you look at the past 3 years, we've identified our high school EOC tested courses that we offer now in all of our middle and our K-8 schools. So we provide equity in all of our schools. These are face-to-face instruction in every school now, where 3 years ago and prior it was not. It was sort of left to the school's discretion. So very proud of the increases that we've had, not only in enrollments, but also in proficiency. We've been able to increase by 28% enrollment, 3% proficiency, and as you can see, we've remained highly competitive with the state average as well.
All right, as we move into the next slide, you'll start to see that these opportunities that we're providing for the middle school students to accelerate really benefit them in the high school also to be able to accelerate and receive college credits and work towards college credits in a lot of different ways. So there, in this graph, you'll see, or this chart, we talk about two different opportunities, acceleration opportunities, the AP, the advanced placement, as well as the IB diploma program. So I'll start with the AP. You'll see again, we've got the 3-year trend of students enrolled. Our AP enrollment has increased by 1,131 students over these 3 years. So that's a 26% increase. So we've really had a real focus on making sure the right kids are being given access to these AP classes. And so And that's not putting kids in there that, that really aren't ready for it. These are kids, we just look really closely at lots of data to make sure that
Is
they're.
40% good pass rate?
No,
No.
that's
No.
what we want to fix.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.
But you'll also note that the number declined slightly in terms of the number of students enrolled in AP. I mean, just a little bit, like 32 students. But at the same time, I think we're getting better and better at identifying those
Identifying
kids
those
with
right
AP
students.
potential
Sure.
to make sure that we have the right students in there, particularly when you look at the increase in tests.
Yeah, more tests
And
taken.
the
Right.
increase in number of tests that earned credits. I mean, that's 3,000 college credits that our parents and community are now having to pay for. But we definitely want to now continue to look at that passing rate.
The 5,500 students, those would be in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, or just 11th and 12th?
9th,
9th,
11th,
10th,
12th.
11th, and 12th.
Ninth,
They start
there are
taking,
some
yeah, they
ninth
start
grade?
taking, oh yes,
Okay.
AP Human Geography is a class they
Okay.
take as ninth graders, yeah. So
Okay.
as Dr. Pace said, our focus really escalated this year to not just getting them access into the course, but helping them to be more successful in those courses. So we're focusing on working with our resource teachers to create electronic PLCs. So they're using the Teams program so that those teachers can collaborate across the district, because a lot of times they're onesies and twosies
sure.
and they're the only one in the school. So we're really working to try to help them share materials, talk about what works and what doesn't work. And we're also providing for them College Board resources. So we're really looking at those, the release tests, the questions, trying to really provide resources so that kids are exposed to this actual test questions.
I was in an AP Physics class today at Celebration High School, just a rock star teacher. And so as soon as I got to the car, I'm texting Dr.
Yeah,
Reinhardt saying,
she did.
he needs to be leading our virtual PLC for AP Physics.
Yeah, yeah, that's really awesome. So, yeah, so we really are focused on making that percentage. That needs to increase. And we look at and compare, we're
Mention,
providing.
though, that it has increased over 3 years. That's why
Sure, sure.
we got the AP honor roll last year,
Mhm.
but also
That's right.
we're very much in line. I mean, that's important to note. We're just under Orange County, which is a huge change in what years past, so we're making progress.
Just under them in percent passing or percent
Yes,
enrolled?
passing, they're at 42.
Okay.
And we're gaining, and they haven't gained as much, so, but that is certainly an area.
Is there a national average to passing?
There's a world average, and there's also a state average. The state average is the one we want to chase, and that's by course.
And do you know?
Yeah, he said it's by course.
Oh, it's by course.
There's not like an overall.
Well,
Is it
there-
close to 50? I mean, what are we talking? 10 points, 5 points? That's kind
I
of.
think
Yeah.
the state average is at about 55%.
Okay.
The global average is higher than that, but when we set the bar, we really like to compare to the state, because
Sure.
many other states don't, they charge the kids to take the test. And so it's just not comparing apples to apples,
Sure.
I think, when you start going globally. So, yeah, that state average is definitely the thing we're chasing. You'll also see, so then below that, and the chart below, is the IB diploma program. You ever just
Let the record reflect. That was Mr. Wheeler did that to Mr. Weisshire and us today earlier when we were like 5 minutes late.
well, we're glad you're here.
Sorry, please.
Here you go.
Okay, so looking at our IB diploma program, remember we have the IB diploma program at 2 of our high schools, Gateway and at Celebration. So that, again, we're trying to show you the 3-year trend. You'll see the number of diploma candidates. That's the number of seniors who receive the IB diploma over the course of the last 3 years. The IB diploma is sort of the icing on the top of the cake compared to they get a regular high school diploma, and then they can earn an IB diploma on top of that. That's based on how many tests they pass. They have to take an extended essay. There's quite a number of components that they have to get the diploma, which they don't even find out about until like July. Our number of IB seniors there, so you'll kind of start to see the percentage. Our percentage of seniors who actually have earned the diplomas has continued to increase. With IB, students can earn those college credits. Even if they don't get the IB diploma, they still have the opportunity for each individual course and examination that they take. They can earn college credits, and so you'll kind of see the number of college credits. We did have a dip this year, and we're working on that. That's really been a focus for us. You'll see the percentage of IB credits earned. It's kind of flatlined there a little bit, but we really have had a focus trying to enhance both of those programs So we started having monthly meetings together to work on the vertical articulation together, to talk about having consistency in their programs, and a real emphasis this year on recruiting. So we know we need to get recruiting and get more students, especially into our Gateway program, and we're really focused on that. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so that's 2 programs, so it's roughly, 60, 62, 63 kids at each high school, or is there a celebration
level.
have a?
In terms of, I'm sorry.
That's
the diploma?
because it's seniors, but, so there's 60 seniors, 60 roughly at each high school, 60 and change.
A few more in Celebration than in Gateway.
More in
Yes,
celebration.
yes, celebrations. Yes, that's why we really need to work on that recruiting effort.
That was one of the valuable components we felt as well in terms of Ms. Ponzoa transferring from Celebration to Gateway, because she has that tremendous experience. Kelly Myers has
Sure.
been able to step right in where she left at Celebration, but that's brought a whole new perspective and level of experience with IB to Gateway.
What does it do for these, I know I should know this, but these kids that graduate through the IB programs, what does it do for them getting into college versus somebody who graduates non-IB? I don't know if that's what you call it, regular.
It does provide, so depending on the university that they want to go to, it's a very highly regarded international program. And so it does really help them. They know that those students are prepared. They've done a ton of writing. So they really do have the opportunities to get into a lot of the Ivy League colleges, and the enrollment there is pretty spectacular, yeah. We just need to, we're focused on it this year, really. We're bringing them together. We've already had 2 meetings, and
Is this something we need to expand to the east side of the county?
No.
Just asking.
Getting 2 quality IB programs going well, I think, in the
Okay.
district should be our first priority
Gotcha,
before
that's
we
fine.
try to expand.
And they can come here, right?
They can come
They
here. Both of these programs are choice. It's just divided. East can come to Gateway.
understand that.
All the way west can go to Celebration. And we do have a number of students who elect to do that. But that's why we also have the advanced placement and dual enrollment opportunities at St. Cloud and Harmony on that east side for those students who want to go that route instead of IB.
And if they do that and they participate in extracurricular activities, is that back to home base or is it here? If you're in Gateway's IB program and you
Yeah,
want
it's in their school, if
It's,
they're IB.
yeah, they participate at Gateway or at
Okay.
Celebration.
They,
Okay.
do, they
I just
become a
wasn't sure.
Gateway student. That
to,
becomes
okay,
their
no, that's
school of
fine. I
record.
just wasn't sure how that worked.
Yeah.
Is there a correlation that can be identified either that we have or we can do between what Clarence was asking, the number of students that have the IB diploma that have gotten into either an Ivy League or a top tier university compared to those that don't? And can we correlate something to that?
Well, it definitely can get numbers. Yeah, we can definitely track.
I would think parents, that'd be a selling point to parents.
That's what I'm thinking. I
Well,
hadn't thought about it.
We do use that in recruiting. We do talk about, they list all the different Ivy League, all the different schools that they go to. We do use that in recruiting.
But again, it goes back to different choices and experiences that kids have. The young man who had a full ride to Harvard last year was an IB diploma graduate from Celebration High School. I can think of a young man there who was at Duke. But I also can think of the young man who has a full ride to Yale who was at OXA with dual enrollment in AP. So, certainly there is an advantage. It opens up some doors, particularly in those Ivy League schools. IB does. But a competitive student with AP and dual enrollment opportunities, particularly AP, will have those same opportunities.
Yeah. I just think it might be an interesting kind of comparison to look at.
Yep.
If a parent is deciding, do I want my student to go in the IB, what are the potential benefits that can be realized as such? AP, otherwise, regular diploma, there's got to be some pathways or I guess outcomes that we can identify and begin to correlate to say, if this, then this, if this, then maybe that. And
We'll
I think
try
it
to
could
look-
help with a decision-making matrix
Yep.
for parents.
Yeah.
Laura can follow up with the 2 schools on the students who graduated last year in particular.
Yeah,
That
and I can
would
work
be
with Anthony Cook on
Just
that. I'm just thinking as we're tracking through Naviance and all those different things, I know we have the ability to do that, so yeah.
Sure, and I recognize that at the end of it all, it's still a choice, right? I
Right.
mean, they
Right.
may have opportunities, so we could look at acceptance or not, application or not, but ultimately a student might say, yeah, I have the IB diploma, but I had no interest in going into any of this. And that's perfectly acceptable in my opinion too. I mean, we only want so many of these kids going into the crazy Ivy Leagues in the country to begin with, right? And they come out all screwed up, so we want to be careful.
We do talk to them all the time about that you have choices, and they're all good choices. Whether they choose AP, they go IB. Parents always want to know what's the right answer. There isn't a right answer. It's great that you have all those choices, I think. So.
I agree.
I guess my question, just to kind of behind Mr. Weishar's question, is that, so we've got 126 kids per grade level. So how many kids actually, I'm assuming there's a qualification, you're going to have a background qualifications on this. So how many kids are even eligible for IB? Is it like there's 500 and we're getting 127, or is there 150 and we're getting 127?
Good question.
So I can tell you how many we had about 125 that started with this year's 9th grade class at Celebration. It's quite a bit smaller than that, this freshman class at Gateway this year, which is why we're really putting many more kids eligible. I mean, lots and lots of kids. I don't know exactly. I think what you're asking is if we say 800 are eligible, how many actually come? I think is what you're asking me, but I don't.
Are we asking
find that
800
out.
kids to be an IB and we get 127? Or are we just asking like 200? And it's not a
I'm
big
kind of
deal.
curious too, how many,
Okay.
And then how many say, no, I live in Harmony, I'm not driving all the way to Gateway every day? And how many?
And some of that does, right,
and
or
how
I
many
don't want to run
say-
a bus for,
Yeah,
sure.
and how many say?
and we do have the pickup
I'd rather do
points for
AP.
this, right, or not?
Yes,
What do
we
you call that?
Hubs, the hubs.
Hubs.
Mhm.
Hub transportation.
Yeah, I can work on getting that for you, just so you have a sense of.
Just
yeah,
curious
that's not
to
that,
see
yeah. Absolutely.
what the pool was.
I've got another stupid question. Can you only start IB in the freshman class, or could you start as a sophomore? I don't know.
They do. It's not as common.
Okay.
They really, what IB prefers is they have a number of years of foreign language. So many times the foreign language is the thing that'll,
Okay.
if they haven't been taking it. But I had students when we started it. We had students that would start in their sophomore year. Kids will transfer in sometimes from other IB schools too around the world, and they'll come in. We even had them come in as juniors. So the actual diploma program doesn't really start until they're juniors.
Okay.
The 9th and 10th grade year is sort of a pre-IB, trying to get them ready for the rigor of those courses.
And it's the same foreign language, is it not?
It has to be, yes, it's
Yes.
4 years of the same foreign language.
What about pathway and articulation from like Thacker into, is it?
Parkway.
Parkway, thank you, and then to Gateway, or what's the west side, what's the west side one? Is that it? It's
That's
just
it.
those
We
two
only
primary?
have
one elementary and
Yeah,
one- yeah.
okay. So, do we have students that we've seen go through the entire pathway at this point? Are kids only in 7th grade that would have started in kindergarten at Thacker when we implemented? I mean, how far into that pathway and articulation are we? And have we tracked any student that started at like a Thacker, went all the way through it through Parkway, ended up at Gateway or Celebration, and is then graduated with an IB diploma?
We'll have to go back and look for some of that data, Mr. Weishire. We started the PYP program probably 2009, wasn't it, Dr. Fritz?
Yes.
And did we start the middle school program that same year?
No, we started the middle school program the following year or the year after that. I can tell you that when we looked at choice numbers, we have about 35 to 40 kids that choose Parkway for their IB program, so we probably want to take those 40 and see if some of those one came from Thacker. And then Parkway is a big feeder to Gateway.
Yes.
So
Natural
we'll have
feeder.
to look at some of that.
Yes.
Yeah, which is an interesting point too, because, well, I guess
And
still, they
Gateway's
still have
down.
to be into they'd still have to go into the IB program, even though they're,
The NYP program is all-encompassing, just like the PYP,
School-wide.
so everybody that's there is part of that.
no, I mean, when they go from Parkway to Gateway.
Yes. they would
So
have-
just because they're zoned to Gateway from Parkway doesn't
They
mean that
still
they
have to
automatically
apply.
become an IB student at
That's
Gateway. They're still
Correct.
gonna apply and go through.
Well, and
the-
we're way down at Gateway too in freshman class, you said, right?
Yes, we are.
In
So,
enrollment,
in-
or in IB.
In our IB enrollment,
Yeah.
yes, it's.
So that articulation
About
is,
75.
doesn't sound like it's necessarily happening.
Yeah, and, so I missed obviously the beginning part, but I've caught up, I think, on a lot of it just by reading and
Oh,
listening.
no, we had high level discussion.
I highly doubt that. my questions and maybe our questions are good information points to really understand the effectiveness and even the buy-in to the
Right.
program. So I look at it and say if an elementary student was at Thacker, was at Parkway, but then they didn't go into the Gateway IB program as an example, why? Why didn't they? Did mom and dad not see the value in it? Did junior not want to do it anymore? Was it too difficult, too rigorous to get into at the Gateway level, but it was okay because it was school-wide at the primary levels? I think those are just good pieces, particularly if the conversation does ever come back up about expanding it into the Poinciana area. Isn't that what you said? Or something like that.
No, I think your questions are super.
sync.
I appreciate the depth of thinking that you're engaging us in, and we will absolutely follow up, because
Yeah, same thing.
they're really
If
good
they build the
questions.
road,
So we appreciate that.
And we are also going to have vertical articulation meetings, so our PYP, MYP, DP programs, we're bringing all of those
PYT.
principles.
One other
You got
question
that.
is the
Thank you.
percentage earning diplomas. That percentage represents the number of students that are in the Gateway or Celebration IB program, but actually earned a diploma, not the kids that maybe started in the program but then dropped out or decided not to continue, correct?
Correct.
This is solely the ones that began it and finished it but did or did not earn a diploma?
Correct.
IB diploma?
Correct.
Okay.
But
Because
now-
that's another piece
yeah,
too, is how
Thacker-
many kids started at
Yeah.
Gateway or Celebration, but then by their end of their sophomore year, they say, whoa, way too much, I'm out.
Yeah.
And I know students from student
Sure.
ministry that I've taught that did that. They were at Gateway a number of years ago and said, it's just too much, I just can't handle it, and they dropped out of the IB program. So
It does
that's-
happen
There
in both
is,
schools.
and there is a level of stress that goes along with being an IB student. That's why they have an IB dedicated counselor at both of the schools. My mentee is an IB student, and so we're working with her and her brother.
Is there a significant increase in cost per student for students we have in IB versus
I was going to ask that.
versus a traditional high school student?
There is an annual fee that is paid to International Baccalaureate IBO, but the real cost is in the training for teachers.
Okay.
There's not a per student cost, but that's where the investment is absolutely necessary.
Okay.
How do we break that out? So do we identify so is there a budgetary component that is solely focused on IB, or is it more so that there's the PD budget and a couple of pieces and parts of it are going towards IB? How do we
I'm gonna let Dr.
decipher
Fritz
that?
answer for you.
Because the simple math is how much is the total cost we're spending on the IB program through operation, physical space, student allocation, otherwise, divided by the number of students, right? But do we even know that, and can we break that out?
It is actually absolutely broken down. There's actually FTE generated for students participating in IB courses, and we get acceleration dollars too, once they pass that. All of that comes back and is placed into a fund at the district level, and it's parceled out to schools. Schools get 80% of the money that they generate, the district keeps 20%. And it goes into a line item that pays for things such as when we bring teachers together for that specialized training. So I don't want to say it's an absolute wash, because it's not an absolute wash, but it does generate and start to fund itself over time. And so schools individually, as they start to earn that 80% of those IB dollars, they have an account that they set up purely for IB training and curriculum and resources. So it starts to, while there's some seed money up front, it generates its own over time.
Yeah.
We end up in the black overall.
Do the IB teachers receive a stipend, or are they?
They get a
Supplement.
for every kid that passes with a 4, 5, or 6, right? 4, 5, 6, 7. 4, 5, 6. 4, 5, 6. Their scoring is 4, 5, or 6. They
Yeah.
get a
Seven. No,
$50
it goes to seven.
stipend for every kid for a maximum of $3,000.
Okay, so it's based on that performance, not just like a coaching supplement
Right.
that they all
They have to, their students have.
Just like
Sim-
our
similar
AP
to-
teachers
yeah.
and industry certification teachers earn a supplement as well for the students who are successful.
Now,
I'm fine with that.
Parkway is a natural feeder to Gateway, but Thacker is not a natural feeder to Parkway, correct?
Correct.
So how does that, and then it kind of gets
Hub
back to his
transportation
question.
is what we offer.
But you are offering the transportation. So there are, so you're telling me there are students that go to Thacker, go to Parkway, and then go to Gateway?
We're going to identify exactly how many.
Yeah. But that is a thing.
That's the
Oh, yeah.
theory.
the math of what you were describing is interesting too, to figure out the ROI of this, both from a direct and indirect. So we could say, if the program is costing X, even if it's black, if it's generating X, but so many students are having access to X number of scholarships above and beyond, or access to these schools or whatever, I could make the same argument though on the other side, which is that there's an indirect benefit. I mean, I literally was in my car on Saturday morning showing properties to a doctor moving to this area, and we were in Celebration, and I was talking about the IB program, and there's an indirect benefit to the school district as well that we could quantify, that says it creates an appeal and a prestige to what we're offering in the school district. So I say that because as much as I want to see the financial components and how that plays out, it's not lost to me that there are intangibles that we need to be looking at as well.
Exactly. And I think the most important thing is that we're offering choice and options for our students and their families. And then we need to continue to communicate the value and the distinct differences between those choices and help parents and students make good decisions.
Just tell me how Thacker works. Is the whole school is an IB school there? Or is,
Yes.
so a lot of those kids are just zoned there, right? I gotta believe 80% of those kids are going there, whether it's an IB school or not. So you got a few choosing to go there because of that. How does that work for the kids who are, who'd probably be like I was, wouldn't know an IB from anything else? That, I mean,
Because of the rigor at that.
It's really about culture, and it's about having an international mindedness.
Right.
So while they're learning the same standards as third graders across the district, they do it in thematic units, and there's a set of skills that IB students are taught to develop.
Correct. So they're thinking beyond just right here, they're going out beyond worldly, thinking the application.
But it's not meant to be, I think, like the high school program, the DP program is really considered a pretty rigorous,
Right.
highly competitive, academic get them into college kind of thing.
So the elementary's a
PYP and the
little
MYP are really are not meant. It's meant to, for all students to be getting that.
International flavor, that international mindedness, they call it.
The middle school is in the same concept. However, there are additional high school credit courses that are offered at Parkway, such as there's Spanish 1, Spanish 2, and there's French that's available as well.
All right.
Okay, let's keep moving because we've got OT
Yeah,
and
so
industry
I'm just
certification.
going to skip through these next couple slides. It's really just graphs showing you the exact same data that you saw in the chart that we've been discussing. So unless you want me to stop, I'll just keep
No, we're good.
going past that. And then I just wanted the slide on dual enrollment, I think is kind of important for you to see these numbers, the students, the trend for 3 years. The data that you're seeing here includes all of our dual enrollment students, OTech, University of Florida, UCF, and Valencia. So you'll see, obviously, a 3-year trend with some nice increases there. Specifically, our Valencia enrollment has increased from 567 students in the fall of 2014 to 903 students in the fall of 2017. So just over those 3 years, we had a 59% increase at Valencia, greatly due to much of our Got College efforts. We have a great relationship with Valencia.
Will you repeat those numbers?
Absolutely. From starting in the fall of 2014, we had 567 students in Valencia. In the fall of 2017, it was 903, a 59% increase.
how much of that impact do we think is based on the new Valencia campus? Does that matter?
The one on Point Siena?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, I don't have those numbers, but yes, we've been having
We
a
have a
lot
lot
of
there.
meetings with them. Yes, and we really have. They're tracking that. Valencia's tracking it, and they can tell you exactly that we've really opened up access for those students
Good.
down
I
there.
mean, I really got,
And
a lot of that funding came because of this, because of that conversation.
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
glad to hear it's coming to fruition.
Specifically, our University of Florida enrollment has also increased, but that's an online program. So I don't think that it necessarily meets all the learning needs. Kids don't always learn the best online without a face-to-face instructor. So it's increased from 7 to 22 over the course of those 3 years. Also, just want to point out the AA degrees that we've been able to earn over the 4-year trend. From 2015, we had 5 students earning an AA degree. Last year, 2018, we had 42 students.
Yep.
So it's a 740% increase.
Mr. Weishauer
when
and
you
I
think
were
of
there
it.
to congratulate
Yes,
you.
you were. It was awesome to have you there. So some things we're doing to continue to enhance that agreement or the relationship we have with Valencia. We're having articulation meetings with the Valencia professors and our high school teachers in the core academic areas. We're doing that at all 3 campuses, Point Siena, Kissimmee, and Lake Nona. And we've also have a really unique relationship where we've got Valencia math instructors teaching our Math for College Readiness classes in our 8 comprehensive high schools. Again, really focused on that math barrier. That's a big barrier for college. And we've also added a 4th transition coach this year.
I wanted to pause to tell you what I was laughing at, just because I don't want to be rude to you. You had made a comment something like, the students aren't at UF, the students aren't necessarily always, and I turned to him and said learning, or something like that.
I kind of.
Did you catch it?
That.
Okay.
I didn't hear you, but I knew that it was not directed at me, sir. That's
I'm
what
still
I
laughing
It
at
was.
Mr. Thacker asking how Thacker works.
Yeah, we both thought that. I turned to him and
All
I said,
right,
"Did you catch
we
that?"
got a lot of great information
Yeah,
for
cool.
our OTEC folks. If you
Thank-
don't mind,
Okay.
Mr.
Seriously,
Chair, I will
thank you all.
transition our
Thank you.
We
deal.
Thank you for
appreciate
the great questions. So we'll gather
That was
some.
good. That was great information.
information.
And we
Yes.
do. We know we ask for a lot, and we appreciate what
No,
you
but
guys
that's-
I'm
do.
just
those are good
honored to have
questions.
led the way for Thacker
Yeah.
to become an IB school.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
right.
because of you.
It's all
Is
because
somebody going to do the PowerPoint?
I told
Ruben's
him, I
going to do the
said, "You and I
PowerPoint.
know that's been in school.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Elementary at
Do they have
White
copies?
You would not be
Do we have
asking,
copies for them?
how does it work?
I
I didn't know it.
didn't know.
I mean, I thought it was every student, but I didn't.
Yeah,
know
no,
it was
I was.
one class.
That was a good question.
Again?
Okay, board members, we are transitioning now to really what started as the genesis of this particular workshop. It gave us a chance to update you on all of our acceleration efforts, to the amazing expansion that Melanie Stevanowitz, our executive director, and Mr. Tom Ott, our principal at TICO and OTEC and PATH, I'm so sorry, have been leading
Where's Tico?
in our industry pieces. So wanted to share with that. You do not have a
Yeah.
copy of the PowerPoint. We will make sure that you get one, but it is on the screen.
Mr. Thacker, would you like to move closer?
I can see it. The numbers are big so far.
The numbers are big.
If
That's
they
a good
don't get
thing.
much smaller, I'm okay.
These are secondary industry certification attainment rates from 14-15 through last year. There's an asterisk at 2017-2018 because our reporting window is still open and we are still combing our data and working with schools to make sure that we have reported every single student. The interesting thing about the reporting window being open till October 31st is I have until October 15 to report against last year. So we have students who, for example, earned 2 of 3 of their MOS, their Microsoft exams. We're trying to kind of boot camp them and get them finished. So I'm hopeful to see that number go up some.
Good.
But you can still see the significant increase in total funding that we've earned since 2014-15. I mean, more than doubling, from $557,000 in additional FTE to over $1 million. So very proud of the work that these guys are doing.
Thank you.
Let me ask a quick question. I think it was my very first year on the school board. One of the things, and I won't get the terminology correct, but one of the things we were working on legislatively was getting Osceola trued up with the amount of money we were getting. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
So that's on the post-secondary side, and I'm very excited to report that I have just last week been named to the Workforce Funding Committee by the DOE. And so I'll be participating in those conversations because we are currently funded at 86% of our need.
Yeah, I think
That
back
is
then
not
it was
acceptable.
78%, if my memory's correct. and
We've
that was
creeped
an
up.
ongoing
There've been doing
concept.
some leveling.
Because like Pulp was funded at like 142% or something. I mean, it was like crazy, and that was part of the argument with the legislature was at least shore this up a little bit. I mean, we're really being, but I want to understand more because it's been a while since we've talked about it, and so.
And Melanie has done a tremendous amount of work to really earn a lot of accolades and respect and opportunity at the DOE and across the ACE board as a leader in the field. So it's going to only help
I'm
us.
sure Mr. Wheeler's recommendations.
I was just going to say that. That Mr. Wheeler probably called the commissioner of education.
That's right,
Got you right on that committee.
Oh, boy.
As you wish, Mr. Wheeler.
All right, then. So we'll move into some Carl D. Perkins data metrics I want to share with you. Just a few slides. I'm not going to go into all of the data metrics, but it's important for me to point out to you that they also look at CTE and its impact on reading and mathematics, as well as the industry certification, secondary school completion, and school graduation rates. This is just a snapshot of what they call our dashboard of our performance. And what this tells us right here is for 16-17, which means for the current school year, because it's lagging data, we were not obligated to write a program improvement plan. So we were able to submit our grant without any kind of strings attached.
great.
And if
Yeah.
you'll notice, that would be the first time in 3 years that we've been able to say that.
Good.
Good.
So I want to just kind of quickly go through the technical skill attainment. We performed at 83% of an attainment rate within our students, and the state was only performing at 85%, and that's pretty good. Some of our neighboring counties are in the 60s and 70%, and that's an attainment rate for students who earned an industry certification and who graduated in that year. So
How many different certifications do we have?
I lost count. I don't have enough fingers and toes.
Okay.
But everything that we can reasonably offer
Huh?
that makes sense in a course without forcing a
I
square
guess
peg.
he's only got 10 fingers
You're too
and toes.
spicy.
I'd say or a 21, I guess. I was thinking hands.
Right?
I'm sorry. That's good.
Be a good meeting tonight.
This is
No, I
second-
actually asked both of you seriously, and you sent me a list, because I had several teachers that I was talking to that said, hey, why don't we have where's all this career technical? I said, wait a minute, I can get you that information. And they're like, well, I didn't know we had all this. I mean, elementary level, not
Right.
high school level, but,
Right.
elementary level, and they have kids thinking about going into things like this and understanding that they can go right on to OTEC right after high school, and I think that's maybe something we could communicate more to our elementary
That's-
level educators.
Part of the reason why we're here today. Thank you, Mr. Thacker.
Well, I spoke to one of our big contractors in town a while back and told him some of the things we're doing. He was like, wow, I didn't know that. And he's involved with Valencia, some of the stuff they're doing there. And he said, there's a lot of things I'd really be interested in, and he gave us a contact. Have we followed up with that one at all, do you know? Okay, on some specifics that they could use?
Yeah, specific to
Absolutely.
the need.
Yeah, right.
We have expanded down into middle schools as well. And I've just been kind of poking around in elementary schools to see if there's a teacher willing to try an industry certification in the 5th grade.
Really?
Yes, sir.
We have like child labor laws.
I was gonna-
Oh, there's goal.
Why not start the pathway as early as you can?
Sure.
I mean, they're digital oriented, so it's,
Sure.
Yeah,
being
yeah.
safe online.
We're
and
not
stuff,
working on
so-
a car at 11.
Give me
right?
time.
Yeah, give me time.
Give me time.
Maybe like Power Wheels.
Power wheels, right? You gotta
Is
start somewhere.
there any effort in this because these kids, particularly the regular students, they're still bound to take all the FSAs and everything. Is there any effort to say, you know what, some of these kids are on a different track and they're gonna do quite well on their own, but I've had several people talk to me and say, I really wanna do that, but I can't pass such and such a test.
There are some discussions through the secondary CTE professional organization of raising that through a legislative platform that maybe certain types of industry certifications could replace, but that's going to be a heavy, long conversation. We do have some industry certifications that can replace a math or science course, but not your algebra, not your geometry, not your bio.
Right.
But if we had a student start really ready to graduate and it's their senior year and they just can't get that last math class or whatever, and we can go back in their records and see if they've gotten a certain type of industry certification, then we can help them out.
I mean, I get needing to be well-rounded and all that stuff, but there are just some kids that have really strong aptitudes at maybe fixing a truck that are never gonna understand.
Don't point at me, I couldn't fix anything.
No, I don't know. That are
I can
ne-
change the oil,
That are
tire.
never gonna have any interest or aptitude for biology, and all we do sometimes maybe, and I'm kind of torn on this too, that maybe we run kids off that we shouldn't be.
Well, that's an interesting point with this particular slide, because when you think secondary school completion, that's not necessarily a graduation rate. Those are students who left our school who either attained a high school diploma, a GED, or a credential
Okay.
that it's offered through my courses or TOMS. So-
And maybe that's okay. Maybe, I don't know.
It's not ideal. Of course, we want them to leave with that diploma, but
I would
if
too,
they
but
leave
it-
with something that gets them into a
But
higher
if-
skill,
but if
higher
they
wage
can go be a
industry.
welder or be an
Right.
auto mechanic or truck diesel mechanic and make a good living, and the only thing they didn't do is pass the biology, at 35 years old, nobody's gonna really say, I'm not gonna use that guy, he didn't pass his biology test.
He doesn't know how the Krebs cycle works.
That's right. Yes.
They ask him if he drank in high school.
So our graduation rate, I want to just briefly mention here, we met 98% of our target that was indicated for us by the state. The state performance statewide was 96%. One of our local neighbors who's touted as having some of the best CTE programs in the state. Now, CTE is designed to move the graduation needle. It's exactly what you just described. And that school district hasn't moved the needle on their graduation rate since 2006. It's been holding steady between 76 and 79%. So this is a testament to the work that's been done here in Osceola. To get to 98% of that with the graduation rate is pretty phenomenal. So I want to talk a little bit, I just want to make you aware that the Carl D. Perkins grant was recently reauthorized. It hasn't been reauthorized since 2006. So next year will be a transition year where we will need to work with our industry partners and local community to develop a 4 to 5 year plan. The first year will be a transition plan, and then a full 4-year strategic plan for our CTE programs. Some things I want to share with
So
you.
reauthorization means we have to start over? Or
Yeah,
okay.
it should have been reauthorized in 2010, and it's just been put off with other
Okay.
legislative priorities. Our local plan will need to align with the state's plan, and I'm going to work to see if I can't get myself onto that committee.
Ask Jay.
That'll work.
It's there's an increased
It's
emphasis.
okay to fix the rules to our benefit.
Yes,
Yep.
yes, I think so too. There's an increased emphasis on supporting special populations. There will be new performance measures, which I'll be interested. I've watched the performance measures change in adult ed once they got reauthorized, so I'm very curious to see how different these are.
Stephanie, what are special populations?
Students with special needs, ESE students.
Okay. I just didn't know exactly what that meant.
We're already seeing an influx of students with specific disabilities now, not necessarily like your SLD, your specific learning disability students, but like I have a profoundly deaf student in advanced manufacturing now, and we're seeing more and more coming down the pathway for that, both in D and the adult route.
Great.
And then this will be interesting to see right now we can spend our Perkins dollars in 7th grade through 12th, and now we can reach back into 5th grade. Mechanics.
Yeah.
So.
That's exactly what this particular teacher's question was, is, I have students that say they want to be, their dad's a mechanic and they'd like to be a mechanic, and, and there's college, and we push that a lot, and we should, rightly so. But, and going back to law enforcement and firefighters and all those kind of things, and I would throw military in there, and just being able to explore that, and you can do it right here in Osceola County, and having them maybe be able to kind of gather information from you guys and put it all together. And I guess we're going that way.
We're trying to.
Yeah, that's
We're trying
great.
to. So I want to point out some new CTE programs that we've opened this year at a variety of schools. Advanced IT, which is a very rigorous information technology program at Point Siena High School. We've got cybersecurity at Neo City, Tahopakalaga, and Gateway. We have networking at Neo City and Gateway. We have the LPN program, which will start at Tahopakalaga High School and will finish at OTEC with clinicals, and they'll be able to matriculate right into Herzing's Bridge program if they want to. Very minimal cost. Very minimal cost. I have avionics up here in red because it's not necessarily a new program, but we did have to close it temporarily last year because we didn't have a teacher. We have a dynamic man there now. We're working to get him fully trained as quickly as possible. And I think this is going to be the guy that's going to help us get it off the ground. Great. So.
Is TKHS, is that our district-wide moniker for?
Yep. TKHS, Tahopakalaga Toho High School.
I hope so, because that's what I've been using.
One word, though.
Huh?
Tahopakalaga is one word.
I know, but I like Toho. But we do 4. We do the 4 now. I had this question a few years back.
Yeah, it
We
drives
do
me
4
nuts.
letters.
PNHS, OCHS,
Yeah.
I'm like,
It's OCH,
Yeah.
That's
So-
Osceola High School.
right.
We'll keep going because we can't
I'm
solve that today.
confused as
Sorry.
well.
Okay.
I
Okay,
don't get it either.
They
But I-
went to a 4-letter system, and I don't know.
Okay.
Well, but that's to prevent if you had another high school that started with T. Somebody's got to be T something, right?
Go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah, okay. 'Cause we have started civil architecture.
That's what they gave me.
Civil
I
architecture.
hadn't seen that, or I hadn't noticed.
This is for you. Civil architecture and engineering at Liberty. We have AP computer science now in all of our high schools. We've expanded ag, both in Horizon and Liberty. So I have some proposed programs. We're working in partnership with Valencia College right now to write the frameworks for residential property management. This will be the first high school level frameworks, I am told, in the country. I'm proposing the location for that course to be at Celebration High School. Students will have the opportunity to earn industry certification and matriculate right into Valencia's program, which they just started. They wrote their benchmarks last year and they're starting it this year. The other area that we're looking at in working with my ag resource teacher and kind of combing through the frameworks that we have available to us, we have both come to the conclusion that we would like to write our own frameworks for the region that specifically meets the local needs, the local workforce need. And so we are starting to brainstorm what those frameworks look like, what possible industry certifications we may be able to apply in them. We will take next year to work with industry partners to write the frameworks and submit them a year from now to the DOE so that we can have some specialized frameworks in the region that we can rely on that are maybe a little more high tech, a little more reflective of the work that we do, because I think they're a little outdated. Is that?
Most agriculture education is very outdated.
Okay, well,
so it's been a problem that I think it needs to be addressed.
So we're gonna, but we want to take the time to do it right. So by October of next year, we will submit the new frameworks for approval to the DOE for implementation the following year, and then we'll look to do a kind of a 4 to 5 year plan to push it out as wide as we can around the district.
So somebody could get a bovine technical assistant certification.
If there is such a thing, there could
But
be.
but there's also, I asked him a while back, I didn't, I said, we got these ag degrees, and ag is clearly not what it was when I was in high school, which is animal science, just about.
Yeah, that
So how are you-
the
is
old
this gonna-
agri stuff. I mean, I would say you're probably focusing more on like food sciences, maybe
So that's what I
some
was like, this is
landscaping, some
expanding.
landscaping
Okay,
type
good. I think that's
degree.
great.
And there's lots of opportunities for the right individuals, for the right students.
Mm-hmm.
It's not learning how to grow corn. You know,
Yeah.
it is I think geared
No, that's good,
towards
that's what I was asking.
what's available to these
In the region,
in the region.
workforce-wise.
So on this residential property manager one, I'd be interested to know what Valencia program that does align with, and then, not that it doesn't exist, I just don't know what it is, and then why we're picking that one to use, and then what the, because I have a conversation with you too about what the workforce opportunity really looks like in that space.
So Valencia took 2 years ago, they took a year, they ran their DACOM. They actually, my counterpart there was approached by industry because they felt that there's a niche for students to come out of Valencia's program and go right into work, property management type of, in condos, apartments, hotels. So they did a lot of the research, and they worked with industry to develop their frameworks. They wrote them and submitted them to the DOE, and then they approached us to kind of work it backwards into high school. So our students at the high school level could go out and have, sorry I didn't bring it down with me, but the certification to be a leasing agent. And we would look to add some basic property maintenance, emergency maintenance type of things to it.
Okay. I'd want to know more. I know, as you described it, I know exactly where that came from, who it came from, and what industry partner was helping shape that for Valencia. I don't know that I have a problem with it, I just want to understand it more.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I think we should graduate all these high school kids with real estate licenses.
We need more.
Flood the market.
That's all I have for secondary.
Now that's very exciting.
Yes.
I mean, really is.
How is the feedback on the name, or new name?
Very,
Very
very
good.
positive.
Okay.
We're going to
We have
share
some-
with you
yep.
some things to show you that this is actually working as it was intended to, and actually I can show you on the next slide. So, starting off with enrollment, we're continuing to see increases here. You can see that there was a 7.9% increase between 2016 and 17 and 2017 and 18. I think largely due to our dual enrollment emphasis in the 17-18 school year. But after the rebrand, and when you look at numbers from August to August, which is an important metric for us because that's our biggest enrollment period, and of course we enroll at different times throughout the year, so the numbers continue to climb. We had a 22% increase in enrollment from August 2017 to August 2018, which is significant not only in the increase in students, but because when we were doing the research for the rebrand, it showed us that if we did it right, it would be at least a 20% increase in enrollment. So we look like we're right in line with that.
Yeah, great.
So what's happening with the name, with the brand, with the whole scheme is that it's catching on and more people are seeing it. We have some more stuff to show you how that's even happening with some of our peers across the state, later on, in the presentation. But this is a significant thing. From what we can find, we've never been over 900 students at this point in time.
Great.
So we're getting there, and we expect to be over that 1,238 number at the end of the year when everything is said and done.
Tom, how does that 22% year-over-year growth break out as far as the campuses are concerned? There you go.
So, and again, this is comparing August to August, because again, that's a huge metric for us at this point in the year. We're not able to show any growth with additional enrollment in spring and throughout the year if we just look at year-to-date numbers overall. So, campus to campus, you can see at Kissimmee it was 11% increase. At St. Cloud it was an 88% increase. And I got to tell you, St. Cloud is just rocking and rolling over there with the new programs, which what's happening with the facility work over there, 4 new programs. We opened dental assisting over there in August, and typically when you have a new program, you're happy with 7 to 10 students to start a program. We had 25 in dental assisting, so that was certainly a hit out in that area. And then Poinciana, even with, and this is significant with Poinciana, we closed the patient care tech program at Poinciana in August in favor of getting ready to open cosmetology out there, because cosmetology is going to be huge out there. But that took away one of our 4 programs, and we still had a 36% increase at that campus. So we're continuing to find what works out there, and cosmetology is going to be huge. We told Liberty High School students we're going to do cosmetology, and we had 20 people want to sign up right then. So we're very excited about that.
So I'll just share this. It's somewhat anecdotal, but I think it'll also led to this. So first of all, I'm good with the cosmetology program and what it's going to do. But I will also tell you that a couple weeks ago I was called by some stakeholders out in that area, and they said, they were talking about development and what their desires were and all those type of things. And they said, let's be honest, how many more spas and salons do we need in Poinciana? Every time we turn around, there's another spa, another salon. And they wanted to know if myself, La Rosa, and Arrington would stop them. And I'm like, the answer's no. The market is the one that determines what does and doesn't happen. So I know that there is a large presence of those out there, and that certainly is an opportunity for people. But I also know that the community, and this is a somewhat small sampling of the community, but I also do know that they're also saying, like, we need more, we want more, like, so just keep that in mind. I think what you're doing is good, and including that program makes sense because the market does demand it. But I know the community as a whole is also clamoring for other opportunities and other programs.
Absolutely, and we're landlocked out there with our campus in Poinciana, but we're not done with our growth in Poinciana. We're just going to have to be creative in what we do next.
Are you going to cover that at all, or should I make some comments now?
About the facility?
Yes, and the plans for Poinciana.
We don't have that part of the presentation now.
Okay, I'll jump in.
Okay.
When we bought that building, I think you and I may have had this conversation. When we bought that building, I'm pretty sure we had this too. It was always viewed as a temporary opportunity to get a program off the ground there. It was never viewed as a long-term ideal location for it. But number one, there was not a lot of space out there to get, and we were able to do it at that 50 cents on the dollar approach, so it made a lot of sense. Looking at ways to expand the programming in that community is substantial, particularly because we also know, and I know you and I have had comments about this on the days before, is that Valencia is competing in some of our space. And they may be our friends, but they're our friendly competitors. And so we want to be mindful of that. And with that new Pleasant Hill Valencia campus, we want to make sure that we're staying ahead of the curve of what we need to do to provide these low-cost options to our students and residents out there. I just want us to keep on the radar that there may be opportunities in the foreseeable future to expand OTEC in that community significantly, and to repurpose that facility for something different, whether it's just ALCO or if it's something additional with, choice offices, parent liaison centers, whatever use we might deem appropriate. But it was never intended, because I was there when we did it and really drove that work, it was never intended to be the final and permanent solution for OTEC in Poinciana.
And I just want to add one thing, Jim, because we've had this conversation. Is I'm extremely proud of what you guys are doing with OTEC. I think it's a huge, huge benefit and asset to this community, but I don't think we should be proud of it, and we should wear it as a badge, and we should drive where we need to drive and not be afraid of the competition and be offering what we should be offering for people at a lower rate that we can be doing out there. I just don't think we should be embarrassed by this. It's outstanding, and we need to hold our heads high and be very proud of this, I think.
Yeah, and I'll jump on to add 2 compliments. I think Teresa Castillo was with me at one of the celebration presentations where I touched on OTEC and what was happening. And I did another presentation not long after that and was bragging on OTEC and even the rebranding efforts. And people are excited about the school, and they're excited about what we're doing, and they see the value in it. And it's one of those things that is, and I know the marketing efforts are continuing to evolve and expand and do whatever they're doing, but it is really one of those best kept secrets of Osceola County, and the more we can do to get the word out about it and make people aware of it and to truly be proud of what it is and what students are able to achieve through it, I think the better off everybody is. But I'll just tell you time and time again, when I talk about it and what it is and what it does and what it represents, the community is like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. I had no clue. And when they understood the difference between the TICO to the OTEC and what we were doing and why we were doing that, they were like, hallelujah, you guys nailed it, great job. So
I was with somebody at lunch that I want to talk to you all about that wants to get somebody out of OTEC for a job. So,
Just want to say, I think, if you don't mind, can I go ahead?
Absolutely.
So we have now, in the past couple of weeks, have started to have other districts contact us because they want to come and view the site and see how we're doing things here in Osceola County, which is kind of a nice compliment when you have players from around the state reaching out saying, I want to come and spend a day with you guys.
tell them, no, we're building a wall around the county.
Now, Tom and Melanie have some really good, impressive
That's a-
outcome data as well.
That's a great compliment to you two.
Yes, it is.
And your,
They're good.
and your teams, not just you two.
So I do want to touch on industry certification attainment at the post-secondary side. Now, even our dual enrollment students, while they are secondary students at their home high school, they are treated as post-secondary students at OTEC, and they take the post-secondary curriculum. So all programs and all certifications at OTEC are at the post-secondary college level. Now, our first year that we could compare data with our team here, we had a 13.4% increase in certification attainment. Now, it looks like we had a decrease in certification attainment in 17-18, but I can tell you that's because of how the cohorts fell. We had cohorts start in 17-18 that wouldn't take the certification in the 17-18 reporting year. So the enrollment went up. You would expect industry certification attainment to go up, and if you look at it apples to apples, student to student, you'll see that once those cohorts take that. It also kind of falls on how we schedule certain programs like law enforcement officer, where we have different start times throughout the year. It's one of those things where one year you might have 4 cohorts because of how the calendar falls, and the next year you might have 3. So you do have to kind of look at it from that perspective too, of how many students are earning certifications. And you'll see on the next side, if you'll go down to that third bullet point where it's the technical skill attainment, those students graduating within that year with a credential, we're at 96, almost 97%, whereas the state average is 87%. So we can see that if you look at it student by student, we are meeting that goal when it comes to the credential. We also, right now, based on our Council on Occupational Education annual report data, have a 93% completion rate, which in this context is akin to our graduation rate. So our students are staying, our students are obtaining the credentials they need, and they are completing their programs. Right now we have a 77% placement rate, but I can tell you that it's going to be near 90 by the time our reporting is done for this particular annual report. Yeah.
Just real quick, what's the difference between the 77 on placement on bullet 2 and the 70 and the 82.63 on placement on bullet 5?
That's a great
or
question.
6?
So all of the sub-bullets in the third bullet point are the post-secondary Perkins performance indicators. Melanie shared with you earlier the secondary ones. These are based solely now on post-secondary, so the numbers are different solely on what OTEC is doing. This is 16-17 data when it comes to Perkins. The 77% is current right now, 18-19 data.
And it's based on, the numerator and denominator are
Right.
based on the students that were eligible to complete, not the school as a whole.
And I also want to point out under Perkins that we have exceeded the state average quite significantly in most of the categories. In all categories, we of course don't have to do a performance plan on anything either, which is the first time in the last few years for OTEC as well. And one of the things that OTEC has traditionally struggled with was non-traditional enrollment completion. There are certain programs that are flagged as non-traditional. To give you a simple example would be having male students in your LPN program, that type of thing. And you can see that we have really jumped up above the state average, certainly in completion at 65% as opposed to 52%. So we're attracting, based on what we're doing with the rebrand, different populations of students already.
You guys, apart from state average and really district-wide, this should be one of the things we're looking at is So we compare ourselves to state average, but have you identified really who the top players are in this space and how they're performing and how we compare to them?
Yeah, we haven't looked at that when it comes to individual counties or other, differing schools in larger counties, but that's certainly something we can look at and replicate some best practices if we can
Yeah, I
find
think it
some.
should be one of the targets is, of course, we want to be above the state average, but that should be like our minimum, not our maximum, right? So who are the best of the best out there,
Yeah,
and
and
let's
what-
take them down.
What's very interesting about this is we actually have to set local performance indicators, and that's what we have to exceed in order to not be on performance plans. So, for example, going into this year, I think our performance indicator for technical skills is like 98% locally, right? And so you really kind of benchmark against yourself when it comes to that for this. But I agree that looking at those that might even outpace us, and I can tell you, I don't think there's many when it comes to these numbers, especially in some of the higher ones. But that would be a really good thing for us to look at.
Yeah. I would imagine like Manatee Tech or something like that is
Mhm.
probably really crushing it. They've got that amazing campus over there, and I assume anyway that they're
Take a
doing.
look, see how we stack up, absolutely. So that's what we've done. Now we're going to look a little bit about where we think we need to go. And Melanie shared with some of the things that we opened, and I know we've had conversations about some of the things we've opened, but I think it's interesting that, we opened cybersecurity this year, and we saw what's coming down the pipe for Bridge with the $30 million they had as well. So, it's really neat to see what we're doing, impacting what's already coming to the community. But what we're looking at in the 1920 school year is the potential for a surveying and mapping technology program at Kissimmee to help support some of the growth happening in the county. And we're also right now working on short-term construction programs in conjunction with CareerSource. We've been doing construction pre-apprenticeship programs for the last couple of years. And we're looking now at some more specific training like drywall and framing and roofing for specific companies that have specific needs. So these would be what's considered like a closed enrollment program just for one company to train their employees. But it's a different way of getting a different type of student onto OTEX campuses. We also are working on what's called an integrated educational and training program with ALCO.
Can I go back?
Absolutely.
Describe to me how that works then. I just want to understand the competitive landscape in the marketplace and how that does or doesn't benefit one company over another.
For the short-term training?
Yeah.
Like specific to a company's needs?
Yeah, so like if you had is it like a large roofer then has the ability to do that, but a small roofer wouldn't have the ability because of capacity,
Any
cost?
company can do it. So keep in mind, we're nonprofit, as you know, so we don't do these for profit. We basically do it for the cost of the program, and then, of course, a little markup like wear and tear and equipment, those types of things. But the company that we first started putting the roofing together with just had 4 people that they needed trained in roofing. It would be a 16-hour program, 8 hours of OSHA, 8 hours of actually doing some roofing, and then they go to work. But it's a small, I think it's about a 30-person company, trying to expand. But these programs can be done. I've done them before with Orlando Health. I've done them before we've done them here with Osceola Department of Health and other such companies like that. But it doesn't matter because it really is, it's about $6 per training hour, and then whatever the salary is of the instructor to cover it. But it comes usually to about $150 to $300 per student for whatever training you need. And the benefit to the company, of course, not only is the cost, is that you work with us to develop the specific curriculum that you need for your people.
Okay.
We're struggling, I'll tell you, big time for those two right there.
Oh, I know it. That's actually why I asked.
Yeah.
Is I wanted to just.
I'm thrilled to see
honestly,
that.
part of my question was, does somebody win and somebody lose? Because it's a competitive market between these guys. But your answer's perfect, so that's good.
They're gonna give out our cards so they can make sure they do work.
And these are programs designed by the company themselves, or do they say, hey, these are national programs that you want to pull in? And
It could be. It could be either. Typically, they're designed in partnership with the school and the partner. And we take the lead in designing the curriculum, and we get their input on what the content needs to be. But we actually will write the standards and just go back and forth with whoever it is that we're working with to make sure it's exactly what they need.
that's great.
The IET programs, the integrated ones, are really important too because it allows us to accelerate students that are currently in GED or ESOL programs through career and technical education as well. And these are the types of programs where you integrate ESOL strategies into maybe an HVAC program. So students are actually getting ESOL strategy support within the CTE program and are going through both of the programs concurrently.
So that it becomes their English class becomes contextualized to a career field.
Right.
Great idea.
Yeah, that's it.
So we're working through these things. At St. Cloud, we are looking at the implementation of a global logistics and supply chain technology program in 1920. Goes in line with some of the things that we're seeing and really what industry, the big industry, is doing with the efficiency in their operations and all of that.
And I know I said we weren't going to open any new programs.
This is great.
It's all you.
Yep. And of course,
That's
I
a great
touched on-
career.
Yep.
It's my career.
And there's a really neat curriculum already there for it. And if you do this at St. Cloud with the warehouse out there and also the medical programs, you can integrate the training into those programs and actually improve the efficiency of the programs that are there. So we already talked about cosmetology. We're looking at this spring implementation of that. We're already working with some of our partners to get that done. Mr. Clinch and facilities and all that. We'll be out there again on Monday to figure that out and get that rocking and rolling out there as well. So, talking about the marketing and branding, the goodie bags that we brought you today are really evidence of what supports that you all, district leadership and the board, were able to provide us with funding for this. So thank you for that. And when you go through it, you'll see some of the unique swag that we have now that should attract some more young people to us, or at least get them to be a little bit more interested in what we have to say. But you can see, just going around the county, some of the things that we have. You know, driving down 192 from St. Cloud, you're going to hit like 3 or 4 billboards coming down here on the turnpike. You're going to see them. The one that's on the ground is out by Medieval Times, and then we're even seeing we even have the road signs being changed at this point in time. That's the one right here at Simpson and Fortune.
I've seen lots of billboards.
Yep.
I don't know if I see the same one every day or if I see it lots of.
Yeah, the one that's by your house?
Yeah.
Right? So, but kind of back to one of your points, Mr. Thacker, is how is this impacting the community? Well, we had a couple of opportunities yesterday and today to have meetings with new partners. One was the Orlando Seawolves that just want to get involved, and they contacted us because they saw a billboard. You know, another was Florida Hospital Celebration, who I met yesterday with the executive director of operations for them, and they're going to take on, to start with, 6 of our operational programs: electricity, HVAC, building construction, and host interns at Florida Hospital Celebration. We're either going to do it cosmetology, so those students can go in the rooms and treat patients that have been there for a while. So these efforts and getting the name out is working. And on the right-hand side, you can see the back of the parking placards that the students have in the county. These are on the back of every parking tag that any student in our high schools have. So we are doing some unique things in conjunction with our community relations to make this happen. This is important as well. We have continued to work with REACH for social media and inbound marketing, and I get a pretty significant report from them every month. This is month 1 totals of this new campaign, a yearly campaign for us. From July 30th to August 31st on Facebook, we've had 27,000 impressions. That means 27,000 times our ads have gone past somebody's face, basically on Facebook. So it's been seen 27,000 times just on Facebook in a month. We have 414 clicks to OTEC from Google, and we're averaging about a 3 position on Google when you actually Google like technical schools or something like that, and that will continue to rise. But what's interesting is some of our targeted campaigns. Advanced manufacturing is one of them. We're averaging a 1.8 position on the search page, but an 85% impression share over local competition for that program. So our program is getting in front of people at an 85% clip over our competition. So we're starting to see some growth in there as well.
Great.
Yeah, Mr. Thacker, in layman's terms, it's going well.
It's going up? Is up good?
It's
Or?
up. It's up.
That's like the Quicken Loans commercial.
Oh, you're the technical.
Yes.
It is like 518.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of people are just.
As long as you guys are happy, I'm good.
So just to hit on a couple of things more with some of our community partnerships, you know, about 1.5 years ago we started the RN Bridge program from our practical nursing program with Herzing. In 3 cohorts, we've articulated 50 students to that program. We've articulated in the last 2 years 14 to Valencia. So we're seeing how some of these unique partnerships can really impact students that may not have taken advantage of articulated credit as well. We are becoming more and more out there with our peers in the state as well. You know, Melanie helped us secure the WEDAC conference, which is a huge statewide data conference that's always held in Tallahassee except for now when it's coming to Osceola.
Great.
We're hosting the Health Occupation Student Association regional competition for the 2nd straight year, and I can't remember when they've had it in the same place for 2 consecutive years. So we're continuing to bring things to us to continue to do what we're doing. And we're continuing to go out and present at the Florida Association of Career and Tech Ed and the National Association of Tech Ed conferences to show what we're doing here in Osceola as well. And then just to touch on what we're doing now at PAVS and OTEC, since we've combined leadership then, our goal for PAVS OTEC is to be a model for integrating academics and CTE. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of a glimpse of what we're doing. And please understand this year is kind of a planning year for us as we set the stage for this. But if you look at that second bullet point, it kind of gives you an idea of a sample pathway for a student that comes in 9th grade and then through Naviance selects a health science program for us in dual enrollment in their 11th grade year, and what kind of pathway in the sciences specifically for this example that we might push them through to be able to do this. And I know we're running out of time. And then just some of the other things we're looking at is the introduction of an engineering math academy at PAVS to continue to align with some of our high-tech emphasis. We have implemented a first robotics team that has about 45 students in it already that will actually be building and competing robots in a lunar landing competition this year.
Incredibly enthusiastic. I was there at lunchtime.
I bet. Heck yeah.
And then, again, back to that link of integrating CT and academics, we're looking at the implementation of AP Physics at PAVS that can then link to our industrial and engineering programs. So these are the types of things we're looking at. We don't know exactly what it'll look like yet. Some of the things we haven't even thought about yet, but this is the thought processes behind what we're trying to do with the high school and the college now being combined.
That's
Have you
great.
done a presentation to the Realtor Association?
Mm-hmm.
I think, one, we should explore a partnership with them. Two, we should work on getting collateral in the association headquarters and what we can do to get the realtors communicating this stuff out to their customers.
Absolutely.
There's a lot. That's an untapped opportunity that I think we should explore a little bit.
Absolutely.
Would you like for me to follow up with Twiz, or do you want to make a connection for Melanie and Tom?
Yeah, I'll send an email in a few minutes.
Sounds good.
Perfect.
You know, a lot of times those, the people, the realtors are the first contact, a lot of people looking to move here
Absolutely.
have. And the more there are cheerleaders.
Yeah, well, and I agree. Yes, sir, we are. It's interesting because I was telling Deborah this when we were meeting a couple weeks ago. I was with a family in St. Cloud, and they were talking about some of their some things about the school district, and so I started to just rattle off a number of things that were happening, and not just in your department, but across the school district, including Neo City Academy and all these other things. And they were like, and these are people who grew up here, have been around here, and they were like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. I didn't know this was happening. And I was, this is so, and then they literally said, we regret that we live in St. Cloud. All the cool stuff's happening. And I said, no. They said this. And I said to them, no, you're wrong. I said, some of the things I just told you about are on the east side of the county as much as they are anywhere else. My point is that so many people are unaware
We got it going on
of all, are unaware of all the awesome things that are really taking place in our community. And the more we can get the word out, I mean, these people went from literally complaining about something to like becoming like, how do I spread the word? How do I cheer? And that was, I know, your whole initiative that you were just working on.
And that really, again, board members, goes back to the purpose of our workshop today. We wanted to highlight for you and for our community that might be watching or might watch later some of the great things that are occurring and the great opportunities that you as a board have committed to providing for our students. And
we
again,
appreciate
I
all
will
your
just share with
hard
you that I
work.
have an
Yep.
amazing team,
Yes.
you know,
those
that's really
two,
driving
especially,
this
yep.
work. So
Thank you, guys.
appreciate your engagement with this
Before
today.
we quit, just one quick comment. From my perspective, I really enjoyed going through both these at a workshop as opposed to a board meeting.
Yep, absolutely.
Where it's a little more relaxed and a little more time, and I know it's hard sometimes to get here. I have to speak here about a few minutes, but I like this environment better for sitting down and discussing things more than.
Well, like I said, we
And I think
appreciate
there's
your
some more
engagement today.
opportunities for, if you're going to kind of almost contract out like certifications, I can think of several in the ag industry that they have some BQAs and stuff like that they might could do.
And we have complete discretion over how we do this, you know, with some very loose parameters. It's very easy for us, in other words,
Absolutely.
to grasp something like that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you guys.
Dr.
Yep.
Esposito, 60
Stand adjourned.
seconds real quick.
We'll be back in 5 minutes.